What if I told you one woman once stood against an empire? A woman whose beauty was legendary, whose intelligence was unmatched, and whose story still echoes through history. This is not just the story of a queen. This is the story of power, passion, betrayal, and destiny. This is the story of Cleopatra. More than 2,000 years ago, in the golden city of Alexandria, a child was born under the shadow of greatness. Her name was Cleopatra. From the very beginning, her life was different. She was not born into peace, she was born into power. And in her world, power was never given, it was taken. The palace she grew up in was filled with luxury, but also danger. Behind every smile, there was suspicion. Behind every conversation, there was a hidden agenda. In her family, love was weak, but ambition was strong. Cleopatra understood something very early in life. If she wanted to survive, she had to become stronger than anyone around her. While others played, she studied. While others relaxed, she observed. She learned languages, mastered politics, and trained her mind to think like a ruler. She was not preparing to wear a crown. She was preparing to fight for it. Then the moment arrived. At just 18 years old, Cleopatra's father died. The throne of Egypt stood empty, waiting. But there was one condition. She would not rule alone. She had to share power with her younger brother, a child. But Cleopatra knew the truth. Power shared is power lost. At first, she tried to play the game, but soon the palace turned against her. Advisors whispered, plans were made, and before she could react, she was forced out. The Queen of Egypt became a fugitive in her own land. Alone in the desert with nothing but a few loyal followers, Cleopatra faced a choice: disappear into history or rise and take back what was hers. She chose to rise. And then, destiny brought her an opportunity, a name that shook the world, a man feared and respected across nations, Julius Caesar. Cleopatra knew this was her chance, but she also knew ordinary actions would not change her fate. So she did something extraordinary. Under the cover of night, she had herself wrapped inside a carpet and delivered to Caesar as a gift. When the carpet was opened, there she was. Not afraid, not weak, but standing with confidence, like a queen who had already won. Caesar was stunned. In that moment, Cleopatra didn't just enter a room, she entered history. With her intelligence and charm, she gained Caesar's support. Together, they fought her enemies. The battle was fierce. The stakes were everything. But in the end, Cleopatra won. She returned to the throne, not as a victim, but as a ruler who had fought her way back. But power always comes with a price. Cleopatra and Caesar grew close. Their alliance turned into something deeper. Together, they dreamed of a future where Egypt and Rome stood united. They had children, they made plans, they believed they could shape the future. But once again, the world stood against them. Back in Rome, a man named Octavian was watching, calculating, waiting. He saw Cleopatra not as a queen, but as a threat. He turned Rome against them. He declared war, and this time, the battle would decide everything. The final clash came at sea, the Battle of Actium. Ships filled the horizon. The air was heavy with tension. Cleopatra and Antony stood side by side, ready to fight for their empire. But fate had other plans. The battle turned against them. Confusion spread, fear grew, and in a single moment, everything collapsed. Defeated, broken, surrounded by enemies, they returned to Egypt. Antony, believing Cleopatra was dead, chose to end his life, but she was still alive, and in his final moments, he died in her arms. Now, Cleopatra stood alone. No army, no allies, no escape. But she still had one thing left: her choice. She refused to be captured, refused to be humiliated, refused to become a symbol of defeat. Instead, she chose her own ending. Dressed as a queen, surrounded by symbols of her power, Cleopatra took her final breath on her own terms. And, just like that, the last queen of Egypt was gone. But her story never ended, because Cleopatra was never just a queen. She was a symbol of intelligence, of courage, of power. She showed the world that even in a world ruled by men, a woman could rise, fight, and leave behind a legacy that time could never erase. So remember this, power is not given, it is earned, and legends are not born, they are created.